I'm allergic to cheese, so there shouldn't be no cheese on my burger, on my bun, no scrambles of cheese. Now, what if I died? What if I died, guys? What if I died, guys? I don't got no EpiPen. I would have just died because they don't know how to follow instructions.
That was Deja Jenkins minus, a 22-year-old college student from Boston, Massachusetts. Vibrant, outspoken, full of life. The kind of person who turned a simple burger order into a moment worth sharing. She had a 2-month-old daughter she adored, a close-knit family who loved her fiercely, and a future she was actively building through her studies in social work. But on Thanksgiving Day 2021, that future was violently taken from her. Deja was found lifeless in her on-and-off boyfriend's apartment in Lowell, Massachusetts, the victim of a sustained and brutal attack. Her neck had been broken, she had been attacked with a knife multiple times. And the man charged with ending her life was Leonard Robinson, the father of her infant daughter. A man who had spent weeks publicly questioning whether that child was even his. This is the story of a young woman whose kindness and optimism couldn't protect her from a relationship that had turned toxic. It's a story about jealousy, control, and how quickly unresolved conflict can escalate into irreversible tragedy. And it's a reminder that the smiling faces we see on social media rarely tell the whole story. Before we get into Deja's story, if you're interested in cases involving domestic violence, family tragedy, and the warning signs we too often ignore, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Deja Jenkins Minus was born on February 15, 1999, in Boston, Massachusetts, into a family that valued closeness, structure, and education. She was the eldest child of Lamont Jenkins and Latoya Minus, and from the beginning, her role in the family carried a quiet sense of responsibility. As the firstborn, she was often described as attentive and protective, someone who naturally stepped into leadership without being asked. Her bond with her mother, Latoya, was especially strong. That foundation shaped how Deja moved through the world as she grew older. She wasn't reckless or detached. She was thoughtful, grounded, and future-oriented even as a teenager.
She's very outgoing. She's loving. She's a very uplifting young lady.
And that assessment wasn't just a mother's pride talking. People who knew Deja saw it too. She was the kind of person who smiled easily, who always had something kind to say, who seemed to genuinely enjoy life wherever it took her. Deja attended high school in Massachusetts, where she quickly became known as a student who took her education seriously. She wasn't the loudest voice in the room, but she was consistent. After graduating high school with academic honors, Deja enrolled at Merrimack College, where she became a proud Merrimack warrior. College marked a turning point for Deja, not just academically, but personally. It was the first time she was fully shaping her future on her own terms. She pursued a degree in social work, drawn to a field that aligned with her values and her desire to support people in vulnerable situations. Social work wasn't just a career path for Deja. It was an extension of who she already was, someone who cared deeply about others, someone who wanted to make a tangible difference. But college wasn't just about work for Deja. It was also where she expanded her world. She wasn't chasing attention or validation. She was building something quietly, step by step. And it was during this period of growth that her personal life began to change in ways she couldn't have predicted. Not long after starting college, Deja met Leonard D. Robinson. Leonard Robinson, who went by the stage name Pool Body D. Rose, was a few years older than Deja and was an aspiring rapper in the Boston music scene. Confident, expressive, and outwardly charismatic, Leonard was making a name for himself in local hip-hop circles.
Hey, EG57 Po Boy Bowls. Dorchester's favorite, man. Dorchester stand up. Boston, what's up? You already know I'm coming back with another one. This is a more bumpy vibe.
At first, their connection felt natural. He was attentive and engaging, and Deja was drawn to his ambition and creativity. What began as a romance soon deepened into something more serious. From the outside, the relationship appeared affectionate and mutual. They spent time together, appeared supportive of one another, and shared moments on social media that reflected closeness and pride. If you looked at their TikToks and general social media presence, you could tell they looked happy. There was lots of public affection, and the internet was flooded with clips of them kissing each other. Friends and family saw a young couple building something together, navigating adulthood side by side. It never looked like Deja and Leonard were in a steady relationship. It was more on and off. But every time they were together, they did look really happy and in love. And for Deja, the relationship seemed to align with her vision of the future. She wasn't looking for chaos. She wanted partnership. She wanted a life that felt shared, where effort and care flowed both ways. For a time, that's what the relationship appeared to offer. But relationships don't unfold in isolation. As Deja's life continued moving forward, another major shift entered the picture, one that would change every dynamic around her. Deja became pregnant. At first, the news was met with excitement on her end. She embraced the pregnancy openly, sharing updates and photos, documenting milestones, and expressing anticipation for motherhood. Her family rallied around her, offering support and reassurance. To them, Deja was stepping into a new chapter, one that would test her strength, but also highlight the compassion and responsibility she had always carried. Throughout her pregnancy, Deja was overjoyed, sharing lots of videos of her proudly showing off her growing baby bump. Motherhood didn't feel like an interruption to Deja's plans. She viewed it as an extension of who she already was. But while Deja leaned into this new role, Leonard's response began to shift. As the pregnancy progressed, subtle changes emerged. Leonard grew more distant and guarded. His enthusiasm didn't match Deja's, and his behavior became harder to read. And then on September 20th, 2021, Deja gave birth to her daughter, Delaney. The arrival of Delaney should have been a moment that grounded everything. For Deja, it was. She poured herself into motherhood, expressing deep love and devotion to her baby. Her social media reflected joy, pride, and hope. The internet was flooded once again with pictures and videos of Delaney and her very happy mother. But almost immediately after Delaney's birth, the relationship with Leonard entered a more troubling phase. Leonard began publicly questioning the baby's paternity. Instead of handling those concerns privately, he took them online. That fall, Leonard posted on Facebook, and the words he chose were both accusatory and hostile. He claimed he wasn't sure whether Delaney was his baby. He accused Deja of being unfaithful and demanded a paternity test. The tone was aggressive, and he made no attempt to keep the matter private. The public nature of his accusations unsettled people who saw them, not because questions about paternity are unheard of, but because of how openly and aggressively he chose to raise them. And that public doubt marked a turning point. Deja did not stay silent. What had once been a private relationship was now unfolding before an audience, adding pressure to an already fragile situation. Still, despite the attention, Deja continued to focus on her daughter. She leaned on her family. She tried to maintain normality. She did not disengage from life or isolate herself. If anything, she became more anchored to the people she trusted most. On November 24th, 2021, the day before Thanksgiving, Deja posted on Facebook. The subtext was clear. The relationship had fractured, and Deja was speaking her truth publicly. She was addressing Leonard's behavior, his lack of commitment to their daughter, and the pain that came with watching someone refuse to step up as a parent. But she wasn't done. Hours later, she posted again. It was a declaration of devotion, a promise. A statement of intent from a young mother who was determined to give her child everything she deserved. She was looking forward to Thanksgiving. She was looking forward to celebrating with her family. She was looking forward to her daughter's first holiday. It would be Deja's last post. As Thanksgiving approached in November 2021, Deja made plans to spend the holiday with her family in Boston. It was meant to be Delaney's first Thanksgiving, a milestone Deja and her mother were looking forward to. On the night of November 24th, after posting those messages on Facebook, Deja visited her parents' home with her daughter. Leonard did not accompany her, which did not come as a shock given the strain between them. By now, they were engaged in a social media feud that would have made things very awkward with Deja's parents. Deja told her family she would return briefly to Lowell the next morning to take care of a few things and then come back for the big Thanksgiving dinner. She was excited about it. It was going to be her daughter's first Thanksgiving, and all her family loved her very much. On the morning of November 25th, Deja returned to Lowell with her daughter and visited Leonard's place on Llewellyn Street. She was supposed to return to her family in Boston that evening, but she never came back. As Thanksgiving evening progressed and Deja failed to return home as planned, her family's concern escalated into panic. Repeated phone calls went unanswered. Messages were left unread. This was completely out of character for Deja, especially on a holiday.
I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what, but I knew something was wrong.
LaToya and the rest of the family tried desperately to get in touch with Deja the whole evening, but her calls went to voicemail and her texts were left unanswered. This was very unlike Deja. And what about her baby daughter? If she was in danger, Delaney could be in serious trouble. 2-month-olds aren't exactly independent. That concern turned urgent when Find My iPhone showed Deja's phone still located at Leonard Robinson's apartment in Lowell. And that discovery changed everything. LaToya Minus drove to the apartment herself. The unit was dark, locked, silent. When she spoke to the neighbors across the road, LaToya found out they'd seen Deja go inside the house along with her baby daughter and some diapers. But they hadn't seen her come out of the house. LaToya stayed up all night watching the house and her phone, constantly hoping for a ping, letting her know Deja's location had changed. But there was no good news. By the time the sun rose on November 26th, LaToya made the call no parent ever wants to make. She contacted police and requested a welfare check. Around 10:45 a.m. on November 26th, officers from the Lowell Police Department reached Leonard Robinson's apartment on Llewellyn Street to conduct a welfare check. They had not yet gone inside when events took an unexpected turn. Before police could force entry, a relative of Robinson's, driven by urgency and fear, climbed through a window to search the apartment from the inside. When he went to the bedroom and saw the door was locked, he kicked it in. What he found behind that locked door stopped everything. Inside the room, Deja Jenkins was lying motionless on the floor next to an air mattress. The scene made it immediately clear that something horrific had taken place. Emergency responders confirmed that Deja had passed away, and the details that followed were devastating. Investigators quickly determined that Deja had suffered an extreme and sustained attack. She had been attacked with a knife multiple times. Her neck had been broken, an injury the medical examiner later confirmed was the fatal one. Evidence at the scene showed defensive wounds, indicating that Deja had fought back. She had tried to protect herself. She had tried to survive, but she was overpowered inside that room. As family members struggled to process what they had just seen, one update offered a brief moment of relief amid the devastation. Deja's 2-month-old daughter was found alive and unharmed. What remained deeply unsettling, however, was where the baby was located. On the afternoon of November 26th, Deja's family found baby Delaney at their Boston home. They had no idea how she'd gotten there, but thankfully she had no injuries. There was just a drop of blood on her diaper, most likely her mother's. How she was transported there, by whom, and at what point after Deja's passing were questions investigators did not immediately answer publicly.
A grieving family is asking for the public's help in finding the killer of 22-year-old Deja Jenkins Minus. Police have said nothing about a suspect in the case since her body was discovered on Friday.
And the Jenkins Minus family has no idea why someone would want to kill this 22-year-old woman the day after Thanksgiving. And with it happening so close to the holidays, the pain is just unbearable.
Just come forward. I'm not angry. I'm more mad that they won't come forward. They just need to turn themselves in. I'm lost. I'm hurt, I'm numb, I'm angry, and I want justice for my baby and my grandbaby.
At that point, police had not publicly named a suspect. LaToya spoke to the local police and asked them if they had any leads in the case. They only said that the loss didn't appear random. Well, what about the house where Deja's body was found? Or the feuds she had with Leonard? There must have been some clues pointing to answers. But behind the scenes, investigators were beginning to uncover a clearer picture, one that did not come from the crime scene alone. As detectives expanded their work, they turned to social media. At first glance, Deja's online presence reflected hope and joy. Her final Facebook post, shared just one day before her passing, spoke lovingly about her daughter and the future she imagined for them together. But as investigators looked deeper, the contrast became impossible to ignore. Other posts and interactions revealed tension beneath the surface. Messages between Deja and Leonard Robinson pointed to emotional strain, arguments, and unresolved conflict. Public exchanges suggested that the relationship had become unstable, marked by mistrust and pressure. Slowly, Leonard began to stand out. Detectives noticed troubling patterns in his online activity, including posts questioning the paternity of Deja's baby. As investigators followed that digital trail, the evidence narrowed. Leonard Robinson had been with Deja at the apartment in the hours before her passing. The weapon recovered during the search matched the injuries she sustained, and no evidence pointed to anyone else being inside the apartment. By then, the focus was clear. With mounting evidence in hand, police obtained an arrest warrant. On Monday, November 29, 2021, Leonard Robinson was located in Boston, Massachusetts. He had left Lowell after Deja's passing, but his attempt to distance himself from the scene did not last. Officers arrested him without resistance.
He's not doing anything. Calm down. No, calm down. Calm down. Y'all can calm down. He didn't. Hold on. He's good. He's good. He's good. I got you on that dog. I got you. I got you on that dog.
Yep. You're going to come over here. You're going to come out. We're going to freeze the apartment.
All right. Get your hands off me. Don't be touching me.
He was charged with the loss of Deja Jenkins minus. It didn't take long before this news reached the media and everyone following the case. LaToya was quick to post on Facebook about it. LaToya stayed strong for the public eye, but imagine what she went through, learning that her daughter had been taken by someone who claimed he loved her. The following day, Tuesday, November 30th, 2021, Leonard was arraigned in Lowell District Court. Prosecutors Tom Brandt and Caitlin Jem presented the case.
22-year-old Leonard Robinson stood before a judge inside Lowell District Court Tuesday morning to face the charge of murder for the death of 22-year-old Deja Jenkins minus.
What we have in this situation, Your Honor, is that Deja is found in the house that he was living in alone, in his bedroom, which was locked when any witness or the police came to that location.
Prosecutors say the body of Jenkins minus, the mother of a 2-month-old baby girl from Boston, was found Friday morning in this Lowell home off Llewellyn Street. Her death ruled a homicide by multiple sharp force injuries. Investigators believe she was killed by Robinson the day before on Thanksgiving.
What the medical examiner's office noted was that Deja's neck was fractured, that she had over 58 stab wounds to her body by a sharp object.
Robinson was described by prosecutors as an on-again, off-again boyfriend of Jenkins minus. He was arrested in Boston.
Further investigation revealed that there had been social media posts by the defendant questioning whether he was the father of the child, questioning whether he should have a DNA test, and also stating that he was mad at Deja, and I would suggest providing motive.
Deja's mother, LaToya minus, was in court Tuesday. It was her request for a well-being check that led to police confirming her worst fear.
Her mother then and other family members then stayed up all night on Thanksgiving, looking to see if they could monitor the phone, Deja's phone, as to where it might possibly be located.
Leonard entered a plea of not guilty. The judge ordered him held without bail. Leonard stood there behind his mask, no comment, no emotion. LaToya was also in court, watching Leonard stand there expressionless and listening to all the details of what had happened to Deja. She could barely contain herself. A probable cause hearing was scheduled for December 30th. Here's what made the case even more troubling. Leonard was already on probation at the time of Deja's passing. He'd been released on a bail of $5,000 following 2 cases involving illegal possession in Suffolk Superior Court. After those cases, Leonard had been ordered to wear a GPS ankle bracelet and to respect a 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew every day. So the police were able to track his exact movements from Thanksgiving Day. According to records, until 2 a.m. on November 26th, he was inside his home. This is particularly notable as Deja had missed the Thanksgiving dinner with her family the previous day. Then Leonard traveled to various houses in Lowell, and just before 5 p.m., he cut off his ankle bracelet. However, he was soon tracked down and arrested. Leonard had 3 previous convictions for violent offenses and an arrest for illegal possession. He was only 22. He'd known nothing but a life of conflict and poor choices, and it culminated with the worst thing he could possibly do.
Dozens of people gathered outside of the victim's home here in Mattapan, lighting candles, comforting her mother, a 22-year-old woman, a new mother, taken far too soon, the pain too difficult to put into words. Hugs turned into uncontrollable sobs at a candlelight vigil near the Morton Street housing development.
In the weeks after her passing, the community gathered to honor Deja's memory. A candlelight vigil was held in her name, where loved ones spoke about her warmth, her ambition, and her deep devotion to her baby. Latoya Minus stood before the crowd at the vigil, carrying grief that words could not fully express. Today, Latoya has taken on the responsibility of raising Deja's daughter, Delaney. She cannot replace what was lost, but she carries her daughter's legacy forward through the child Deja loved most. As of now, Leonard Robinson still awaits trial. Court proceedings beyond the early hearings have not been detailed in public records or major reporting, and prosecutors have not released further statements explaining the timeline moving forward. And that silence lingers, because until the legal process reaches its conclusion, Deja's case remains a painful reminder of how quickly unresolved conflict can escalate and how critical it is to recognize warning signs before harm becomes irreversible. Deja Jenkins Minus was 22 years old. She had just graduated high school with honors. She had just had her daughter. She had just posted about how her baby would never need for anything. And it was just Thanksgiving. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you think the warning signs were clear, or do toxic relationships often hide their danger until it's too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story affected you, please consider sharing it. Deja's memory deserves to be honored, and her story is a stark reminder that we need to take domestic conflict seriously before it escalates. And if you want to see more cases like this, in-depth stories about domestic violence, family tragedy, and true crime that goes beyond the headlines, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Rest in peace, Deja Jenkins Minus. Your light, your ambition, and your love for your daughter will not be forgotten.